Hey, wait a minute. Who are you? Oh, you must be a reader. So I guess if you're here, that means you must have just finished The Brief Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde. And if you haven't, well, I guess I can wait. Oh, hey, you're finally done with the book. Come on, let's go learn about it. Chapter 1. Oscar grew up in a town called Patterson, New Jersey. He was fat, lonely, he was a nerd, and his life just really sucked. In high school, Oscar goes to an SAT class and he meets this wonderful girl, Anna, who he really likes, and they hang out a lot, but Anna's got a boyfriend. His name is Manny, and he has a huge so big that she had to tell Oscar once, oh my god, I forgot how big Manny's is. Of course, Oscar doesn't like this, and Manny's an asshole. He meets, Manny's a bad person. He's not an asshole, I can't say that. Manny is a horrible person, beats Lola, and Oscar's like, wow, I don't like that, so he pulls out a gun, his uncle's gun, puts it in his pants, and he's like, I'm gonna kill you, Manny. But he doesn't, because he doesn't want to do that. It's not a good idea to do. And then eventually Oscar's like, yeah, high school's over, I'm gonna go to college. Chapter 1, completed. Chapter 2, Lola de Leon. So Lola didn't like her life, she didn't like her mom. Her mom had booby cancer, so she was like, Mom, I hate you, Oscar, you're fat, but I love you. So she decided to run away from home, and she did. She ran away, she went and lived with this family of her boyfriend, but they all tried to get in there, tried to rape her. She said, excuse me, no thank you. So Lola needed some money, so she called up her brother Oscar. She said, Oscar, help me out, steal some money from Mom and give it to me. Oscar, of course, accepted. He loved his sister. But when he went to the restaurant, and I'm going to quote Adam Rathbard here, "It's a trap!" But Oscar was like, hey, I'm bringing your mom with you too. So then Oscar and Lola's mom tried to chase Lola down, but then she was old and had breast cancer, so she fell. And she fell, and Lola was like, oh no, Mom, I gotta help you. So she tried to help her mom out, but in the process she was captured, and she went back to live with her family. Chapter 3, Belly. So Belly's the start of her chapter. She was going to school because Lenka wanted her to, so she went to school. She met this guy named Jack Dolls. And she became obsessed with this guy. And they would engage in sexual intercourse. And various parts of the school. They'd go at it in the school, and eventually they got caught. And then Jack got sent away to a different school, and Lola was like, I mean, not Lola, Belly was like, school sucks. So she became a waitress at some Chinese restaurant. And she did pretty well there because she's hot, and everybody likes to tip the hot waitress a lot. So eventually she met some gangster, and she got knocked up. And then the gangster's wife found out and hired some thugs to beat the heck out of Belly. And she almost died, and she got saved, and then she went to America. Okay, Oscar goes to college, and he meets his roommate, Junior, who also happens to be the narrator of the book. Junior's like a complete opposite of Oscar. He's jacked, he gets a lot of women. It's cool. So Oscar meets Junior, and he's like, wow, Junior, I want to be just like you. So Junior, for a while, helps Oscar out, tries to get him into shape. They go running together. But it doesn't really work out because Oscar's a fat loser. So eventually Oscar meets this goth chick, and they hang out for a while. They're pretty good friends until Oscar catches her another guy off in her dorm room. So Oscar sees it, she's like, what the heck, girl? Why you pushing me? And then he gets super depressed for a while. And then eventually Oscar's like, I'm going to kill myself. I don't want to live. So he tries to jump off of a bridge onto the freeway, but what happens is he misses, and he lives. And his family's like, Oscar, you dummy. Why'd you try to do that? Then he goes back to college, and Junior's like, I do not want to room with you anymore, so he's gone next year. The only reason Junior even roomed with Oscar was because he kind of felt bad for Lola, because he was trying to get with Lola, if you know what I mean, like, vouch for wow wow. And then messed that up, and he was like, well, maybe if I help out her brother, then she'll love me. So that was his attack, his plan of action, his strategy. Chapter 5, poor Abelard. So Abelard, Oscar's grandfather, he was a doctor. He had a daughter. His daughter was, wow, you'd never believe it, Felicia. Oscar's mom. You know, everybody knows that Oscar's mom was kind of hot. So Trujillo, being the pervert he was, went out of his way to get as many little girls for his harem as he possibly could. Everyone's like, don't rape my daughters. So they captured him, and he went to jail, just like I'm in jail right now. But don't forget the curse, the fuku on Oscar's family. So Oscar, his family is cursed by Trujillo. He said, "Fuck you," and he died in jail. While Inca adopted Belly. The end. Okay, so Oscar, wow, you never guessed he went back to the Dominican Republic. And when he was there, he tried to get with this prostitute, and his mom was like, no. His grandma was like, no. His sister was like, no. But he was like, yes. So Oscar spent a lot of time with this girl, and he was like, girl, I just love you so much. She was like, dang, girl, you're a prostitute, but I still love you. And then eventually, her boyfriend was a police chief, and Oscar was like, I don't care. You're kind of cute. So then the police chief like beat the heck out of Oscar. He almost died because of the fuku, but he didn't die because he's hardcore. And then Oscar was like, I still like you. I'm gonna try this again. And then he tries it again. And Oscar gets killed because he did the nasty with the police chief's wife. Okay, so in the last chapter of the book, Oscar's dead. So he has a funeral, and Miggs and Al don't come to the funeral because they were not his real friends. So Junior's like, well, Oscar's dead now. Sometimes I think about him. The end. Well, guys, it's been an honor reading this book with you, but now that I'm done with it, I might as well just throw it away. Whoa! Why are you in here?
Well, I live here.
Well, that's cool.
Oh, what a wonderful novel. You know, there's a lot of good characters in this novel. One of my favorites, Oscar Wilde. Much like Oscar, I'm in a dumpster right now. And that's because Oscar was viewed like he lived in a dumpster by everyone around him. Part of that was because he never changed his ways, and he was always a huge nerd who loved sci-fi. You see him compared to most other characters in this book because Oscar's very different from other characters, and not in a good way at all. He doesn't really fit in. He's a social outcast. He's very fat. He's very, very overweight. Another thing about Oscar is that he's Dominican, and
He doesn't get any.
And he doesn't get any of the, So when that happens, his whole family's kind of disappointed and shocked because Dominicans are supposed to get a lot of that. Apparently that's the expectation. They're players, supposedly, according to Junot Diaz. Unlike the rest of his family, he wore his nerdiness like a Jedi wore a lightsaber or whatever the quote is. One thing we find about Oscar, too, is that he's not much of a dynamic character, unlike most other characters, such as Belicia de Leon or his sister Lola. He's always the same kind of fat nerd, even through college. Even when he thinks he's going to change, he's still just a fat nerd. Now let's chat about Oscar's sister, Lola. But first, let's hit the road. Much like Lola, I'm rolling away from my mother's strict expectations. In many ways, you could say, I'm going to my punk phase, because I'm not listening to my mother anymore, just like Lola. She wanted to create her own personality, and that sets her apart from Oscar. The good thing about Lola, too, she's a great role model to Oscar, but, he doesn't really like to listen, because he's kind of stuck in his old ways of being a nerd. Next thing I wanted to talk to you about was Belicia Cabral, or after she got married, Belicia de Leon. Now, she was the mother of the brief, wondrous Oscar Wilde, and she was really a free spirit, even living in a dictatorship in the Dominican Republic, the Trujillo regime. She kind of did what she wanted. There's a quote that said she was as stubborn as the laws of the universe themselves. But kind of after she got beat up by all those thugs, and moved to America, she kind of started to change her ways, started to be a little more conservative, more of a motherly figure rather than a free spirit. And that free spirit kind of transferred to Lola as she raised Lola. Now keep in mind that Abelard, which is the grandfather of Oscar, was a total badass. In the Dominican Republic, he stood up to the Trujillo regime, and he told him, no, you know what, no, you can't rape my daughter. He said, I would rather go to jail than you to have sexual intercourse with my daughter. Abelard was a very selfless man, and he spent most of his days in prison as a result of that. but he was a respectable doctor, and certainly a different character than Oscar was.
Oscar being the big bone nerd he is, he's living in such a perfect time, the 70s. You have Dungeons & Dragons, Star Wars, Star Trek, just all these amazing science fiction things that Oscar loved. In the 1970s, you were seeing sort of a progressive movement, I would say. You saw Native Americans, the LGBTQ plus community, and African Americans just fighting for equal rights in America. And you also saw peace protesters protesting against the Vietnam War. And so you can see that a lot of outsiders were fighting to become who they wanted to be. And I think that was what Oscar was doing internally, his internal battle of becoming comfortable with himself and being accepted by the outside world, such as these people.
Hey, kid. Joey. You wanna learn about some cultural significance in the book, The Brief and Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde? Okay. I can sure tell you about that. Okay, so Oscar, he's a Dominican, and he lives in this neighborhood with all these other Hispanic people, but like they're all first-generation immigrants. But his mom, she doesn't trust all the other. She doesn't trust the people that aren't Dominican, right? Like, cause there's like these Puerto Rican neighbors, and she's like, oh, they're a bunch of sluts. They're just a bunch of thieves, even though they're all technically from the same region. The other thing about Dominican culture is that guys have to be macho. They have to sleep with all the girls. If they don't, and if they're a virgin, then they're weak and they're lame. They're not a real Dominican. And Oscar, he kind of has that problem because he's fat and nerdy, and he's just not good with the girls. But yeah, that's why he's so committed to getting a girl in his life, but he fails until the very end, and then he dies. That happens. And Belly, she lived in the Dominican Republic with her aunt, I think. Yeah, her aunt. And her aunt wanted her to get married and have kids, but instead she met up with the gangster, and he's bad news because he works for the dictator, and the dictator, he's a bad dude. If you don't, everyone in the Dominican Republic respects the dictator because if they don't, he'll kill them basically. And a lot of Dominicans wanted to escape to America because they didn't want to listen to the dictator. Oh yeah, and one other thing, Junot Diaz, he starts this book with an intro all about this thing called Fuku, which is basically just a curse. And a lot of Hispanic families believe in it, and in this case, it started with Oscar's grandfather, Abelard, which Mike talks about at a different point. But yeah, a lot of people believe that the dictator had the power to curse families, and in this case, Oscar's family was cursed, which is why Oscar wasn't able to get a girlfriend, and he eventually died at the end. Also, there's, regarding cultural significance, there's a lot of spiritual and magical things that occur, seeing that it is a magical realism book. For example, when Belly is being beat up by thugs, she is almost killed, but she's saved by what onlookers describe as a sort of lion thing, which she believes to be God saving her. And later on, when Oscar attempts to commit suicide, he's sort of stopped by a weasel, which he believes to be God. And he still falls, but he doesn't die, which is cool. And, oh yeah, and Belly, when she's in the Dominican Republic, when she gets pregnant, she keeps seeing a faceless man. And I'm still not sure what the significance of that was, but there's a faceless guy, and that's not normal.
So, in The Brief Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde, there's constant allusions about...
Wait, where you go? Get back.
There's constant allusions about Oscar's nerdiness. One of the most prominent being his comparison to Gary Gygax, the creator of Dungeons & Dragons, which Dungeons & Dragons is probably the most nerdy reference you could ever make. And, yeah, very nerdy man.